Okay, welcome once again, Tor, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new paper, right? It says Transforming Culture in Larger Organizations. Yeah. I'm sure many organizations here in Singapore would like to hear from you. Why are we investing in something like this? And what's your experience in terms of driving culture in large organizations?
Well, maybe I should go back a little bit on why we have written. This is only like 30, 40 pages.
Right.
It's a short article, and it's meant for you as a leader who would like to start a transformation or a change in your culture. And that could be for many different reasons. So one part of this article is about 3 different cases where we have seen and worked with culture. And if you read those 3 cases, you will see that they are very different on purpose, and size, and approach.
Right.
And that is one thing that we want to be quite clear about, that there is no one way, so to speak, on how you work with this. However, though, many would like to work with it, and they would like to know how they can get started. And that's why we have written a short article to kind of help you to ask yourself the question and highlight the things that you need to think about in order to get started and be successful in your startup, so to speak. So if you are a business leader or an organization, doesn't have, it could be private or public, it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing because it's about people.
Right. It says large organizations. So how do you define large organizations in this case?
Yeah, I would say it's relevant for even smaller organizations. The reason why I've written a large organization as a heading is because there are parts in it that is starting to come up, that you have some persons or organization dedicated to work with these questions.
Right.
And if you're a small organization, you don't necessarily need to have a whole organization. You have somebody who has a part responsibility instead. So it's relevant also for small organization. But a large organization for me is around about 1,000 employees in this case.
Right.
And that's when you can have somebody who's dedicated to take care or run or facilitate the cultural transformation journey, like a culture manager or something like that.
What about organizations that are maybe 200 people strong, 300 people strong?
Then
is this still relevant?
This is still relevant for people 20, 30, 50, 200. It's still very relevant.
Right. So it's relevant for companies of all sizes then.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And the intention was, why did I write this? I wrote this because there are many organizations who come to us and would like to get started.
Right.
And they have very similar type of questions. But they also have a very similar meaning. They're coming from about the same way of looking at this, what we call culture. And that is different from running a development of a new car or a development of a new factory or so on. It's a different thing. It's not the traditional change management. You need to go deeper into the human beings because culture is about people. So we would like to highlight the different things that you need to think about. So apart from the case studies to show the differences, there are 2 other parts, and that is key learnings. There are 7 different key learnings that I have captured over the years in relation to many organizations, which I know is misconceptions that needs to be cleared out and talked about up front, so that you don't go into a trap and fool yourself in your decision making. And the second part of it is more, here's 5 areas which you need to focus on to build up a structure and a way of working to manage your culture. And that is built up upon ticking questions, meaning that you have done this.
It's kind of a checklist?
It's a checklist, and there's also some very concrete questions that you can ask yourself and see if you have what we are talking about in place or not.
So they act as useful tools and resources, I suppose. Tell us more about the key learnings.
Well, there are a couple. There are 7 key learnings. I don't know if I remember all of them, but a few of them I certainly remember. One of them is culture eats strategy for breakfast, which is Warren Bennis' statement from the beginning. I think at least he's the one who mentioned that. It could be somebody else, doesn't really matter.
Right.
But it's the fact that if you have a clear, good strategy, but you don't have a culture that supports that, the culture is going to eat your strategy, it's going to take it out. You won't be successful in your strategy because the culture is not supporting it. Now, the reason why I put that up there is that that's one saying, but there is also another side to it. If the strategy doesn't have, if the culture doesn't have a direction,
Right.
meaning that you're doing it for a certain cause,
Yeah.
it won't survive either. So culture needs strategy to survive,
Sure.
even if culture needs strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
So you need both direction and a culture, and you need to have harmony in all those.
Yeah. Can you put it in more maybe concrete terms or layman terms how culture can potentially eat strategy for breakfast?
Yeah, let's say that you have, I would like to, I write the statement that we need to increase the customer satisfaction. Because it's not to the satisfaction level.
Right.
We have a low number of customer satisfaction for many reasons.
Right.
So we write a strategy saying we need to increase from so and so many percent to so and so. And we start to look at how can we create then, what are the activities that we need to do to get more awareness of this in the organization. But the culture in the leadership, expressed in the leadership, is focusing on cost cutting and short-term focus of structures and things like that, not on the customer satisfaction. Then, of course, what people are going to work with is what the leader focuses on, or what the culture is focusing on. And that is not going to happen. It doesn't matter then how good and nice strategy you have. This was maybe a very, very obvious example, but there are other examples. If you say, I would like to have much more of employee engagement, for example, and it's only played out and placed on the wall as employees are most important. And when we, at the end of the day, when we take our critical decisions and when we act in our daily work, we focus on other things. Maybe that is bottom line or profit as much as possible. We don't see the employees, we don't engage and involve them. They are not going to free and be engaged.
It sounds like there's a bit of misalignment between implementation and what's planned for in terms of strategy. Can I therefore conclude that culture is about implementation?
You need to work with both strategy and culture in order to be successful. And that's really what that statement is about. And the reason why it's there as a key learning is for you to be able to be aware of that up front. But I'm saying you need strategy also to have a culture.
Yeah. You have to anchor.
You have to think about, okay, here is my strategy. What are the behaviors? What are the values that I need to live by in order to live this? And actively work with the culture as much as I work with the strategy.
Right.
And you need to get that awareness. So that's a key learning. If you don't work with that consciously, it won't happen.
Which I find very interesting, which is
there is no right culture.
there is no right culture. That is to say, there's no perfect culture.
No.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Right?
In the area of benchmarking and all the gurus writing about, well, this is the right thing, this is the best thing, and here if you do this you will be successful.
Yes.
And you have customer-centric culture, or you innovative-centric culture, and so on. Culture is a living thing. It's something that you have to understand, and it's like a personality of your, and you as an organization have a collective personality or identity. And working with culture is about understanding that and freeing that full potential. And you have to find your way on how you want to free that full potential. We start at different levels, or understanding psychological levels I'm talking about, or mindset, and we have different experiences. And we also have different challenges that are different. So it's very difficult to take the Toyota way and put that in.
I can't take the Google culture and put it into your company.
Google culture is good for Google. It has been. I think it will be continuously if they care for it. But you have to find yours. If you take Google culture and put that into your organization, it may not be a successful thing because it's not connected to the strategy, supporting that, or it's not starting where you are, and people feel that they don't recognize themselves in that.
So similarly, can I say that even for a successful startup company and maybe a huge mature organization which is also successful, the culture can be very different?
Yeah, that's a good point, very good point. I mean, the culture is, every individual is part of the culture, and it starts in every individual. So a small group of people, a team, it has one culture because of the situation and the manager of that team. And then that team, together with another team, is starting to form the organization. Now every team could be very different. The same can every part of the organization be very different. And that's another statement here. It starts from the bottom and the top.
Right.
You have to invite people in the organization to work collaboratively to build a culture, starting from where they are themselves. And that's another key learning that we have highlighted here. In many cases, we are waiting for the top managers to say, now we're going. And before that, we don't do anything. I think that's wrong. And I have my own experiences that you can for sure start from the bottom of the organization and work up. So I encourage that in this one. Now the other thing which is connected to this is that dialogue is key. If you don't have dialogue, and I'll distinguish between the difference between discussion, which is more right and wrong, debate, and dialogue, which is more of listening to learning, to grow and evolve together. You need to work with dialogue in a cooperative way, inviting people in the organization to be part of the journey, to create the culture that you need to have. If you don't do that, if you think that you can impose the culture on an organization, it doesn't work like that. We are not machines.
Sure.
We're human beings, and we need to be seen, we need to be actively involved, and feel that we are valued in the process. And if you do, you will see tremendous differences in how much or more potential you can bring.
So it's interesting because you mentioned, it's quite often documented that leadership sets the culture, the tone, right? They walk the talk, and we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're saying that we also need to engage the ground to define the culture?
Yeah.
Right?
And that's coming back to yet another key learning, which is human leadership. You can have leadership and be, say, be very clear on what needs to be done and set out a direction and so on. But if you're not seeing the human being that you're leading and listening to what they are having as needs, it won't happen, it won't change the culture. There's a limitation to how far you will get. But the minute that you start to see the human being that you are leading, the individuals, and listen to their needs, it doesn't mean that you're going to do everything that they say. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you need to have a way of acting, that you are considering what they're saying and involving them in the process. And you need to be more human in your leader, not only focus on the processes and the structures and the profit of your business, not only.
So is there a right or a wrong culture?
I wouldn't say that there is a right or wrong culture. There's always a right and wrong culture for the situation that you're in, for the strategy that you're working with, and that is a journey for you to find.
So I think more appropriate will be appropriate culture.
Appropriate culture. But that's where it comes in yet another one, and that is that what you measure, you can manage.
Right.
You need to know what the culture is. You need to be able to do that, and Barrett Center, your organization, provide that tools called CTT, Cultural Transformation Tools, that gives you a possibility to see the culture in your organization, see who are the individuals, see the current culture, and see the culture that you would like to have.
Right.
And by able to see that, you can then start to make decisions of what are the things that are good that we would like to preserve, what are the things that are holding us back, limiting us, and how is this aligned with the culture of the strategy and the vision of our organization. Are we is it far away, or is it something that we are very aligned with? Now you can start to take much more conscious decisions of what is the culture that we would like to build and work with. So you need to be able to see it as well.
Sure. So culture can actually be measured now?
Culture can actually be measured. And we have chosen to do that by looking at the values, because we think that the values is an expression of our needs, and it shows what is important to us in our lives. So they have a lot of information captured in those. So by looking at the values and understanding the values and comparing them between your personal organizational values, current and desired, you can then start to see what's going on, and you actually know what's motivating you, and you also see the energies, if there are positive or limiting negative energies in the organization. And by this you can take very good decision, but it also provides you a good base for a conversation or a dialogue with your employees to create that culture you would like to have.
So how long does it take to transform a culture, and how can we keep it or sustain it moving forward?
I think that the minute that you start to have a dialogue, that's when you start to transform the culture, as long as it's from a human perspective, a caring perspective. You can put it simple, you transform the culture when you start to talk about it. How long does it take? It depends very much. But if you have an organization, let's say a size of, let's say 50 to 200 people, I think that you should have an ambition of 3 to 5 years.
Oh, 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Because it takes some time for you to understand what you have. It takes some time for you to organize and train yourself to be able to work with it. But at the same time, you also start to free. You can see benefits from the work already from the first year, depending on what you're working with. But our own experience is that just by the mere fact that we started to involve our employees in the organization that I work with in the process of creating the culture, we increase customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction immediately. So that's coming up, but not to the level that we would like to be. So we continue working with that, continue to listen to the needs of the employees, continue to listen to the needs of our customers in this case, and brought that in back into the organization. So it's more of how long does it take? It's a never-ending journey. So I'm sorry, you will never actually be ready. It's something you need to care of all the time. It's like a flower. If you stop caring for it, it will die.